Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the teams that led the league in scoring and seeing where they ended up come playoff time. So before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So scoring is obviously really important in sports, and with hockey being a lower scoring game, it's even more critical. And you look at a lot of these teams that towards the top of the league in goals, and you're thinking, oh yes, this could be a very dangerous team come playoff time. So I wanted to take a look at over the past 5 seasons and see how that worked. Now I know 5 seasons is a very small sample size. I could have done 10, but I'm trying to get 2 videos recorded a day because I'm going to be busy tomorrow, and I want it to go out probably tomorrow. Then I've got a video going out Monday. So anyway, we're going to be looking into that and seeing what our takeaways are. So the 2019-20 season is going to be the first season that we look back at it, and this was a shortened year, but you would see the Tampa Bay Lightning end up leading goals with 243, and their goals for per 60 was also top of the league as they had about 3.5 goals for per 60. What happened to this team? Well, they ended up going to win the championship. Now, were they first in the league for goals come playoff time? No, they weren't, as it was the Colorado Avalanche. Their goals for per 60 was actually nearly 4. And I didn't go by total goals because, again, some teams are going to get knocked out in the first round, some teams are going to get knocked out later. Tampa Bay, though, didn't end up leading come playoff time, but they were able to win the championship. Meanwhile, the Avs were knocked out in the second round. So then in the 2020-21 season, the Colorado Avalanche ended up leading for goals during the regular season with 197. Seems low, but they only ended up playing 56 games, and they had the highest goals for per 60 at about 3.5. They also led the playoffs in goals for per 60, nearly about 4, a little bit over actually. But guess what? This team did end up going on to win the playoffs, or win in the postseason, I should say, as they lead in the playoffs for goals for per 60, but are knocked out yet again in the second round. Then in the 2021-22 season, the Florida Panthers ended up leading the way for goals with 337. They also scored at the highest rate. It was about 4 for goals for per 60. They would fall in the second round. But then the Colorado Avalanche, again, this is kind of crazy, they lead the league in the playoffs for goals for per 60. It's also about 4. But the big difference for Colorado at this point is instead of getting knocked out in the second round, they go on to win their 3rd championship, as they were a team that was able to score a lot of goals. They did have a huge game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's something you will see, I feel like, with some of these teams, is if they were able to do it, they had some big games, especially in the Stanley Cup final, which is very weird. So the 2022-23 season, the Edmonton Oilers led the way for goals with 325. They did lead the league as well in goals for per 60 at 3.95. However, they lost in the second round. The team that would go on to beat them in the second round, the Vegas Golden Knights, would lead the league in goals for per 60 during the playoffs at 3.9. They also coincidentally would go on to win the championship, backing up what Colorado did the season prior. And that huge game in Game 5 against the Florida Panthers probably propelled them here. I'd be interested to see if you took that game out where they would rank and if it would still be number 1. And then this past season, the Colorado Avalanche ended up leading the league in goals. They had 302, so a bit of a drop-off from what we had seen from the overall goals by other teams that had led the league, but they still had a goals for per 60 above 3.6, and then they ended up leading the league come playoff time again too. I believe this is their 4th time out of the past 5 seasons to lead the league for the highest rate of goals come playoff time. But like we've seen before with Colorado, guess what? They end up losing in the second round, as this is a team that can and will score a lot come playoff time, but also is only advanced out past the second round just one time when they end up winning the championship. So what are some quick takeaways? Well, we can look at the fact that Tampa Bay, out of this group of 5, is the only one that led the league in goals during the regular season and ended up going on to win the Stanley Cup. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a guarantee if you score a lot of goals during the regular season, if you're that top dog, that you're going to finish there. Now, obviously there's a lot of factors, injuries, and how you want to change your play in the postseason. Those are all things to look at here. But even if you look at the fact that 2 out of the 5 teams that led in goals for per 60 come playoff time ended up winning the championship, it kind of points to the fact that you can see teams score a lot of goals come playoff time, but also still not get the job done, and that is interesting to look out for. Colorado being at the top of the list for the regular season in the playoffs so many times is also interesting as well too. Kind of highlights the fact that they've been so entertaining in recent years, despite there really not being a lot of playoff success. Obviously winning the cup is huge, and that is, the best it can be. But if we're looking at everything across the board, if this is the peak, there's only one true moment you could say, well, this was their one and true deep run. And who knows, maybe I could extend this and make it a 10-year look and see how things look there. But I feel like off the top of my head, the 2012 and 2014 Los Angeles Kings would drag this down a bit and kind of show that, again, you don't really have to be a team that scores a whole lot. LA in 2012, I know, did not score a lot of goals. 2014, I don't think was that much different either, as they didn't score a lot of goals, they didn't score at a high rate. and they were able to win thanks to Jonathan Quick. Some of those series just being lights out. Of course, some other factors as well too, but it is something where it kind of highlights the fact that you have to be able to score a lot of goals and not allow a lot of goals. I'd imagine that that's how things would work. Obviously, if you look at it that way, but I kind of want to look at this in another light and see the teams that go on to win the Jennings and see how they do. Do they advance? Do they end up being kind of in the same boat where they're not exactly guaranteed to even go to the conference final? All things worth looking at, and I don't really know if I will do it just because it depends on how this video will do, but we could probably take a deeper dive if people want to do that, and this just kind of highlights, again, you want to be a complete unit come playoff time because, like the Avalanche have shown, you can be a dangerous team, but you may not get the opportunity to win multiple championships, even though maybe they could go out there and win it next year. But as we've seen with them, money issues kind of tend to be a thing, so who knows what happens there. Anyway, what are your thoughts on all this? What are your takeaways from it? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.